All right, well, the game of the week is Thursday, the Battle of LA. And if you're from Boston, this is basically like the Battle of Comav, but in LA. All right, sorry, my Eagles did not make it out at the Bean Pot, but I promise we will get them. We will get you back in the Natty. But back to LA, back to Cali on the other side. UCLA will be visiting USC in this Battle of LA. It's a huge game. But just, Casey, what are you most excited for with this matchup?
Oh, my gosh. You're talking about two teams that are pretty stout defensively. So moments ago, we just talked about the fact that you've got a number of these teams that they're heavily, really good on the offensive side, but maybe there's a little drop off defensively or vice versa. And you're talking about two teams that stack defensively. USC coming into this matchup, though, number one defense in the nation. And you've got two top tier players, a senior and a sophomore getting in the mix there. Watkins being the sophomore, Marshall being the senior. So I'm really excited to see how creative UCLA tries to get to create those scoring chances and opportunities versus the number one defense in the nation.
Well, the defense, too, is going to have a lot of help being at home with that crowd. I think it's a sold out. I know it's a sold out game. I can't even imagine what that's going to be like for UCLA to have to play in that environment.
Right.
And you might not think basketball is a lot of play calling, but it really is. Like on the court, you need to talk to your teammates. And so that's not only distracting, right? Like you might think it's just free throws, but it's really in all aspects of this game and can really throw you off your guard. And I'm sure the USC fans have a lot of good chirps up their sleeve for
that's
this
what I was
game.
going to say. It's also canceling out the noise. Like sometimes you hear about playing in certain arenas and stadiums and you just can't get the communication across to your teammate because the noise and the fan base is just really involved in the game as well. I think the Battle of LA, both of these teams have an opportunity to do that on their home courts. But yeah, USC, they're going to be really hype. They're going to be very loud. And they're going to try to be as disruptive as possible to the number one seed in the country.
I bet you there's like meetings going on in some of these like sororities and fraternities at USC. Like, what are we going to do in the stands to just totally throw Lauren Betts and UCLA off their game, right? Off their game. But the good thing for UCLA is they're not traveling to the other side of the country. They're literally going down the street. So yes, it's an away game, but like at least you have the best travel vibe of this away game in that you're not really taking a flight, you're not going so far. But I'm just really excited to see UCLA because they have this poise about them that they're not really fazed by these big time opponents. I think knocking off South Carolina really helped them earlier in the season. I think once you kind of slay Goliath in the beginning, then you're like, oh, I'm good. Like,
they have that chip next? To keep carrying.
Right. And so I'm going to take UCLA in this game just because I think they have that poise about them. It's not a hard travel schedule for them. Yes, it's at home. It's not their typical environment, but I think that they have this calm confidence about them that they'll be able to really lean on Betts through this game.
Yeah, and that's what I'm most curious about too. Is it going to be all on the shoulders of Betts and her picking up the points? I think she's sitting around an average of like 19 points per game. But if she gets isolated out of the mix, who's going to be the next step to kind of help with that, with getting the points on the board? And that's where I'm more curious to see if that pull, if that chip from beating South Carolina will come into this matchup, and you'll kind of see that next girl up mentality come into play. I think Rice is somebody else that can get into the mix heavily, and then Jones is somebody who, like, it's not particularly the points, it's possession of the ball and helping her team keep and maintain possession of the ball. So there's going to be a lot of strategizing in this one and adjustments for UCLA, in my personal opinion.
Definitely. And like you said, the possession, right, is huge because when you look at both teams, USC and UCLA, they really compare almost exactly on every stat, right? And so turnovers and careless errors are going to be huge, right? Like these are both the top teams in the country. You know that you're going to make mistakes in a sense because you're going to be forced to. There will be excellent plays made. Like you go into this game knowing that the other team will score, okay? Like there will be baskets that Juju will make and Lauren Betts will also hit some threes and knock down some post shots. However, at the same time, that cannot be paired with unforced errors, right? Like you have to limit those, especially when you're so comparable in both of those areas. So it'll be super interesting to see which team can really elevate themselves over that because at a certain point, you have the top players in the country. You have the best coaches in the country. So what's your edge going to be?
Discipline. I was discipline. I didn't even think about the discipline angle of that, but yeah, you can't have those careless errors. And then, of course, whichever team can create those turnovers the most, I think will put themselves in a position to win this one. So it's so hard. I want to go to UCLA. I had a couple friends that played softball there, and they're going to be so mad I'm not choosing UCLA today. But I don't know. I'm feeling the defensive side of things in this matchup to keep it interesting. And like we're right on the outside of this March Madness shaping out. So this is where these teams, where they might not be the number one, but this is where they can put in the foot in the door to say we can take number one.
Well, it's hard to go against Juju when her top games or her games when she's off are somebody's best games, right? She's scoring double doubles and double digits in almost all of her games this season so far, and that's just hard to compete when you have such a consistent player who is scoring at that level, and the confidence too that she has behind her, right? She's trying to get Big Ten player, right? Yep. So is Lauren Betts, and for who's really going to take that of the conference too. So I think there's so much here that, yes, the national championship is the ultimate goal, but there's a lot of other like little awards here and there for different players, right? That that's got to be in the back of their head.
Yeah, it's the accolade climb to the championship.
Definitely. Well, I'm excited to see how this battle of LA turns out. So do not miss it, a Thursday night.